So we ended with our plans, and I'll go into that. Now, let's talk about that, and you will need a piece of paper for this, okay? Let's talk about some of the stuff that made Alexander so successful. What are some of the things that made Alexander so successful? Okay? His army was trained. So training?
Discipline.
Training and discipline?
Determination.
Determination? What else?
Mental state.
Okay, mental state, confidence. Also, did he practice war or did he just, how often did he practice war? How often did he go to this?
All day, every day.
All day, every day. Okay, so all day, every day. Let's just put every day. I don't want you doing something all day. Let's have some variety. Let's not just be Alexanders who only fight, Let's think, did he model himself? Did he have any people he wanted to be like? Anybody he looked at? Achilles, and who else? His father? Who was his father? Philip II. It's very good. So what we're seeing here is that we have a couple of things. We have training, we have discipline, we have an ability, we have confidence, we have practice every day, we have models to look after. Also, he had a plan. What was his plan? What was his long-term goal? What did he want to do? Okay, he wanted to be better than Achilles. What else did he want to do, on the earth? What was his long-term goal? What are we seeing him do now?
He wanted to go to Himalaya.
Okay, he wanted to go to the end of the world. And what did he do on his way there? Okay, who's he fighting against? What's he doing?
He's trying to conquer.
He's what? He's conquering what?
His way there.
He's conquering the Persian Empire on his way there. Very good. So he has a plan. He has a definite plan to conquer the Persian Empire.
And the Greek, right?
And the Greeks, but that's just kind of on his way there. He conquers the Greeks, but it's not like his big plan. His big plan is to go in against the Persians, as we remember, for the Greek armies. He wants to go against the Persians because of what they did to the Greeks. Okay? That's what they wanted. That's what he wanted to do. Now, last time we left it off, we were talking about what made an Achilles so successful, an Alexander so successful compared to other generals. Now, a couple of things. One, it is this everyday practice. It's this confidence. It's very trained troops. And it's also innovation. Okay? He had very innovative moves. He was daring. He led his troops on his own, but he did daring moves. Okay? He didn't wait. He didn't do what everybody else was doing. He did innovative new general strategies. Okay? So he was doing new things. He used this phalanx formation, right? That was the Greek mainstay. He would use these troops just like normal with these long pointed spears. We're talking 4 deep on these. The fourth guy behind would still have his spear through. Okay? And he put that along with, and hold on for a second as I switch it, he put that along with cavalry. See? This is cavalry, his mounted men. And he would ride through on cavalry. He would ride through on horses. Okay? This is him going. This is the famous picture, again, him on a horse, fighting against Darius. This is him, fighting that army. Let's go back to that one, if people were watching. Okay, and so what he does, and what we see him do, is we see him be innovative, we see him train hard, we see him prepare, we see him get ready, and because of that, he is successful. And so we talked about this, about how we can apply that to our lives. Okay? And if you're watching this on the internet, that's what I want you to do. I want you to take the next 5 minutes, and I want you to write this down about his goal, his training, his confidence, what he has. I want you listing the things that make an Alexander successful, and then I want you to make a plan of your life and how you are going to be successful, following kind of the same pattern. Right. We did it in this class, but not everybody else did it. So I want, for the people watching, to do that first off, okay? What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the Battle of Issus and Gaugamela. We're going to talk about 2 battles. Issus and Gaugamela. Okay? Now, these are two very important battles, so what I want you to do is I want you to turn to page 144 of your books. If you are on the internet, I need you to go to the PDF that is attached and find page 144. There's a map there. What this is doing is it is discussing the, it's just a map of Alexander's battles, and then also the kingdoms that come after him. Okay?
So both of them are battles.
Both Isis and Gaugamela are names of battles. They're names of cities, but famous battles that Alexander wins.
So when he conquers a place and leaves, does someone like stay and over?
That's a good question. When he conquers and he leaves, does someone take over it? It does, exactly. He kind of does two things on this. Right? Pete, you're with me? What he does is he does these two things. First, he does put one of his generals in charge. But secondly, what he'll do is he'll put the people who used to be in charge back in charge, as long as they pledge loyalty to him and promise to be on his side. So for example, when he goes in and he's conquering all of Eastern, the Fertile Crescent, he's going into Turkey and Syria and stuff like that, modern day Egypt, all this stuff, and he's taking over town after town, he just says, listen, old Babylonian rulers, you guys can come, why don't you guys come in? You guys are now the rulers, you guys come in, you be in charge, but you have to be loyal to me and pay like X amount of taxes. And they're like, well yeah, if I'm in charge here, that's fine.
So they like build a kingdom and
Well, so this is what it is if we look at the old Persian Empire, and if you look at your map, pretty much everywhere he conquers is the Persian Empire, right? And so all of this was under the rule of Darius III, right? Who's emperor or king of kings, Shah of the Persian Empire. He's the dude in charge, right? This is Darius III. And so what happens is when Alexander takes over, there's just a governor, there's just a dude sitting there, like, say, ruling in Turkey. He's a Turkish dude ruling in Turkey. I mean, he's not Turkish at that point, because the Turks don't come over for much later. But there's like a Lydian or a Phoenician or somebody ruling in that city. Now Alexander takes over and he says, hey, you still have to be loyal to me instead of Darius III. You can pay less taxes, you can do less of this. Sound good? And then the guy's like, yeah, I'll be loyal to you. And so he's all, okay, cool. I'm going to leave a Macedonian here, one of my guys, to kind of be in charge of this whole area, but you can take care of day-to-day of the city. Does that make sense? So that's kind of what he does. Because he does have to do that. I mean, he really is important because he has to keep getting supplies to feed his army of 40,000 people. So he has these long supply lines. If you look at your map on page 144, summary, you'll get your map out of page 144. Okay. If you look at your map there, you'll notice that he has to supply people all the way from Macedonia. He has to get new recruits, he has to get food, he has to get weapon repairs. And so if he has like enemies on the backside of him, then they're going to be mad. And so he doesn't really care about getting a ton of money or staying in charge. He just wants them to be friendly with him. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So everyone point to the Battle of Issus. Okay. Battle of Issus on page 144. It'll have a little symbol that says it's a battle. It'll be on your map. Point at it real quick. And tell me what year before the Common Era did the Battle of Issus happen? 333. Very good. 333 BCE. Let's write that down. (333 BCE). Now, Battle of Issus. How do I explain this? Okay. So the Battle of Issus is this. Darius has gotten an army of about 70,000 men. Alexander has an army, he has about 70 to 80,000 men. Sorry, Alexander has an army of about 30 to 40,000 men. So we're seeing Alexander being outnumbered at least 2 to 1. Okay? So Darius is coming after him. They're actually, if you look at Issus, there's a little mountain range right there. And they're actually on either side of the mountain, and they don't know that the other person is passing on the other side of the mountains until a scout comes and tells them. Okay? They come and tell them, and there's a lot of flat land near it. Now this is good for Darius. I'm going to keep saying Darius or Darius because I don't know which one's correct. But this is good for Darius because the mainstay of his army is something called a scythed chariot. Okay? This is a scythed chariot. If any of you want to draw a picture of this, you can. A chariot generally has the 2 horses, the 2 wheels, a small little cabin or whatever you call this, a small little like cart that you sit in. You have 2 to 3 guys sitting in there. One's with a bow, one's with a spear. This guy has a sword. But the big thing about the scythe chariot is the scythe here. Okay? You put a sharp spike on the end of the chariot, and then if you don't get trampled by the horses or shot by the arrows, then you get chopped down by the scythe. Okay? And if you'll notice, if you're on the ground and that thing comes by you at 40 miles an hour, that's going to put you right in half. Right? And so when we're talking about this scythe chariot, okay, this is the mainstay of Darius's army. He comes down. Alexander is ready to fight him. Okay? Alexander has a couple of choices. He can either run away and wait and fight him another day. He can stay where he is, or he can attack. Now, from what we know about Alexander, I want you just really quickly on your piece of paper to write down what you think he did. He can run away and fight him another day. He can stay and just wait for him to come, or he can actually go and attack Darius. All right, I want you to share with the person next to you what you wrote down. What do you think he would do? Take 2 seconds. Okay. Now that we know, I want to do this. Let's raise our hand. Everybody who thought that he would stay, raise your hand. Everybody who thought he'd just wait, raise your hand. Okay, we got a couple there. Everybody thought he would run away and get to a better location for better strategy, raise your hand. Everybody who thought he would attack, raise your hand. All right, that's clearly the majority. Very good. All right, we're getting to know Alexander because that's exactly what he does. His general says, why don't we do this? He says, no, I need to attack. He marches his troops who had been marching all the time anyway. He marches them right back up the mountain to go fight Darius, okay? Darius does not expect this. He is not ready for it, okay? But they line up, they get ready for battle. And this is what happens. Alexander has a famous move. So say you have your troops, okay, and these are the Persians. This is kind of how you build up an army. Okay, what he does is he puts his phalanxes all going to the right side. And he has his cavalry here. That's a wedge formation that he is in charge of. He's the main person. And they also go to the right side. Now, just like in a football move, right? If you think of soccer or you think of football or sports like that, I mean, you're faking them out, right? And so what happens is these troops all go to meet him here, right? They all need to meet so that they don't get around to the back side. Okay? And what happens is once they start going to meet him on the left side, is he cuts a hard right and attacks them straight here. Okay? And he hits them hard and tries to break through and then go to the back side, right? Which is kind of what this is going to be the key that he needs to do. Is he breaks through, and he does this at Isis. Okay? He breaks through, him and his cavalry, and he meets Darius. Darius gets scared, he runs away. Okay? Darius gets scared and he runs away. And what Alexander does is he's faced with a decision. And this is another thing that I want you to think about. He's faced with a decision. Darius is leaving, and his general Parmenion is staying behind, and his general is waiting there. And his general is getting just handed to him. He's losing the battle. He's on his last legs. If Alexander doesn't bring his horsemen back and help him, he will lose his battle. Not the whole battle, but Parmenion and his men will die. So Alexander can either go chase after Darius, his enemy, the king, or come back and help Parmenion. Now I want you to write it down again. What do you think he does in this case? Does he go and fight Darius? Does he go after Darius? Or does he stay behind and fight and help Parmenion? Okay. I want you to write it down. Let's think about it. Share it with a neighbor, please. Share it with that same person before. Tell them what you think and why. Tell them what you think he did and why you think that. I'm not hearing a lot of talking. Are you guys telling your neighbors? What did your neighbor say? Yeah. What? Okay, we'll get on that. What about you, Kim? What'd your neighbor say? Kim. Okay. Michael, what'd your neighbor say?
She said that he thought you on fire.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay, let's do this. Let's do a raise of hands again. If you guys think that he went after Darius, raise your hand. If you guys think he went back to help his old buddy, Parmenion, raise your hand. All right. Okay, we're kind of changing it. He actually goes back and helps Parmenion. He does not go after Darius. He goes back and he helps Parmenion. And actually afterwards, he tends to the wounded. It's actually interesting. In an army of 30,000 people, for the next couple of days, weeks afterwards, Alexander makes it a point to meet with every single person who is wounded and talk to them about their wounds, okay? And so do you think that by doing that, those little things that he's doing, do you think his troops like him less or more after that? More. Right? Right. Exactly, right?
He's raising more.
Right, he's raising morale. That's exactly the point. And he's bonding them to them. He's creating a group. He's creating unity. He's showing them by example. He's not staying in the back. He's fighting along with them. And he's leading by example. Okay? These are lessons to learn from an old Alexander the Great. Okay. So why don't you look at your map. And if you'll notice, after he wins at Issus, where does he go? Where does he go? Someone tell me. First person to know, shout it out. What country does he go to next? I hear it. Be confident. Say it. Egypt. Very good. He goes to Egypt. Okay, he goes to Egypt and he founds a city. Now look at the big cities of Egypt. And from looking at the cities of Egypt, what city do you think that he founds? Alexandria. Very good. He founds Alexandria, and it will become one of the main cities of the world for the next couple hundred years. Well, next about 1,000, really. Up until Muslim conquest creates a new city called Cairo. Alexandria never really stops being a main city, but it's not like the capital. Anyway, he creates a city called Alexandria. And this is an interesting part of we need to know about Alexander when he's in Egypt. What he does is he starts to believe, and I don't know if he had before, but at least in Egypt we know he does, he starts to believe that he is the son of Zeus. Now these stories, the Achilleses, the Herculeses, the Pericles, Pericles was a real dude, the Perseuses, these stories of Greek mythology that we know as mythology were reality to Alexander, okay? They weren't just stories. I mean, these were real people that existed. The gods were real. Zeus could have a kid, like you could literally be a son of Zeus, and he thought he was one. So he starts to promote himself as the son of Zeus. And a lot of, this is probably reality. Some of it could be just like propaganda, making people, follow him more. Yes?
So did he win the Battle of Issus?
He did win the Battle of Issus. Yes, he does win the Battle of Issus. When Darius leaves, he wins. Sorry if I didn't make that clear. He wins. And when you win a battle and all the other troops leave, it's a big deal because the rest of the surrounding area is kind of yours. Do you know what I mean? Okay, so he starts believing himself to be son of Zeus, and he goes in. Now he wants to meet Darius again. He wants to take over. Now, Darius is kind of scared of him, and I'm sorry that I keep switching between those names. But Darius is kind of scared of him, and if you look, I want everybody, we put our finger on Isis. I want you now to put your finger on the river Euphrates. Euphrates. Okay? So, we have the river Euphrates. Darius sends a messenger to Alexander and he says this. He goes, I will. If you declare peace right now, I will give you half of my kingdom. Everything from the river Euphrates west is yours. You've conquered it, you can have it. Egypt, Greece, Turkey, the Levant, all of this stuff, the Fertile Crescent, it's all yours. You take it. Go. Okay, but you have to declare peace with me right now. Now this is an interesting thing because you know that general, Parmenion, his right-hand man, who was with his father, who had been with him for his entire life and for this campaign, they're talking about this offer. And Parmenion says something. And this is, I want you to listen to this because I'm going to ask you some questions. Parmenion goes like this. He goes, if I were you, I would take the offer. If I were you, I would take the offer. And Alexander says back to him, he says, I would take the offer too, if I were Parmenion. Okay? And I want you to do two things on this. He says, if I were you, I would take the offer. Alexander responds, I would take the offer too, if I were Parmenion. What I want you to do is I want you to, one, write down what that means. What is Alexander saying to the guy? And secondly, I want you to write down what does this tell us about Alexander, about his personality. Give me at least 3 adjectives. Is he strong? Is he sleepy? Is he angry? Is he grumpy? I mean, give me 3 things that it tells us about him and explain what it means. Let's take about a minute to do that. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Here's what I need you to do. Let's talk to that same partner we've been talking with the whole time. I want you just to kind of tell us tell your partner what that quote means. Tell your partner what the quote means at least. What does it mean? Let's take 2 seconds. Okay. So tell me, what does it mean? Yes.
I think it means that Alexander thinks like he's better than the general, and the general is weak, and he would take offers, but Alexander's
Very good.
like bigger and better.
He's bigger, he's better, he'd take the offer. You take the offer because you're not as good as me. But me, I don't have to take the offer because I can win on my own terms, right? Like, I don't have to, right? And this is crazy because he only met like half of Darius' forces. He's in foreign territory. He's been winning this whole time, but no one's going to guarantee him winning forever. You know what I mean? I mean, the rest of the area is like Darius' home court for sure. Yes?
So he's kind of cocky.
He's very cocky, right? That's one thing we can tell about him. He's very arrogant. Excuse me. He's very stubborn. I like that. What else do we learn about him from this? What are other things? Miranda, what do we learn about him?
He's pretty confident in himself.
Very confident in himself. Very confident in himself. Luis, what else do we learn about him? Huh? Huh? You don't know? What did this tell you about it? What? No, you don't know. There's no I don't know. You didn't think about it. Okay?
Did he get the offer when he was in Egypt?
No. Maybe. Yeah. Yvonne, what does this tell us about him? Okay. Yep, he thinks highly of himself. We're getting the same picture. He also, however, doesn't want anything for free. That was another thing in some of the other classes that we understood, or that they said, is that he doesn't want anything for free. Okay, let's look at another picture. Okay. So, he says no to the offer. He rejects the offer. He rejects the offer and he moves on. Okay? He goes forward and he goes in and he attacks. He attacks Darius on his own thing. Now, Darius has been, for the last 2 years, sorry about that. Darius has been, for the last 2 years, gathering an army of at least, and this is historically, we know there's at least 170,000 men. Some people are saying that there's like 500,000. I think the Greeks say millions because the Greeks always exaggerate when they're writing down their histories. But we know that there's at least 170,000. And we know that Alexander has no more than about 35,000. So he's facing at least, what are the odds on that?
3 to 1.
Yeah, 3 to 1, 4 to 1, maybe 5 to 1 almost. He's at least facing 5 to 1 odds, if not more. Okay? And generally in war, the person with that big of an army will win, and that is Darius' battle plan. Is I just throw all these troops at him, and I'll win. Now, who do we think actually won the battle? Alexander, right? How do we know that Alexander won? What are some? Why do we think that Alexander wins? Okay, because of his strategy. Okay, what are some other things that we think Alexander might do to win?
Do crazy things.
What?
Do crazy things.
Okay, he does crazy things. He's innovative. He tries. He's bold. He has strategy and he's bold. Okay? The other thing that he does, and this is important, and I want you writing this down, is he has well-trained troops that have fought together for years. Well-trained troops that have fought together for years. He has well-trained troops that have fought together for years. This is key. Because his well-trained troops that know each other, and when you know each other, they're worth so much more. And they're so trained, in fact, when they come through with those scythes, you remember those scythed chariots? So what will actually happen is, if we look at a scythed chariot, that'll come marching through the battle. And these guys are so well trained that they know exactly where it is and exactly when, and they will split. They kind of spread out, and then they split. They come really close together, and as the chariot goes by, they dodge the scythe, and they stick their spear in the guys. Because they're so well trained that they know what to do. Okay? And they know how to work together as a team. And I'm not talking about like just your individual unit. I'm talking about all 30,000 troops work together as a team. They also trust their leader, and he stays with them. This is not the case with Darius. Okay? Darius runs away. When Alexander finally conquers, he gets to Darius again. He actually hits the guy this time, gets him on his shoulder, I think, and Darius runs away. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you, now this is the second battle in a row that Darius has run away from, right? Okay, so I want you writing down on your paper, I want you writing down why you think Darius ran away. Why do you think Darius ran away? Okay, let's hear some ideas. Why do you guys think?
He
Go.
only cares about his wealth.
Okay, he only cares about his wealth. He only cares about that. What else? Okay, you didn't put the exact same. You probably changed up the words a little bit. Why do you think he ran away? He was scared and he didn't want to lose anything more. I like that. Very good. Thank you. Okay, he didn't trust his troops. That's right. He didn't trust them. I like that. Not only didn't he have their trust, he didn't trust them. What about over here? What do we got? Why did he run away? What does this tell us about him? He's a coward. Okay, he's a coward. Well, what else? If he dies, is there anybody else left to fight Alexander? No, so is it cowardice? Or is it just looking forward to the future? Thinking, I gotta fight another day.
I'd say it's
Say it's both, okay? When you say it's just pure cowardice,
Yeah.
fair enough. I kind of lean a little bit towards cowardice, just because I think with the overwhelming numbers, if he would have stayed on the battle for a really long time, I think his troops would have overwhelmed Alexander in the end.
Totally got tired in the end if you
What?
There's so many.
Exactly. There's just so many, the guys would have just gotten tired out, right?
So he just chose to leave and he could have totally won.
Yeah, he probably could have won, but he ran away. And that's a big lesson to learn, right? If he would have stuck it out, he could have won. But he left and he lost.
He drops his morale for the troops.
Exactly. And once the leader's gone, oh sorry, continue.
Yeah, just because seeing your commander leave, that's gonna drop.
That's
morale.
like-
That's
Perfect.
gonna flip out.
Exactly. It's done. It's over. And that's exactly what the troops do. They're like, what, Darius is out? Well, why am I fighting? I'm done, dude. I'm not. You know what I mean? Like, and this is actually what, he's fine. I mean, after Alexander's over, he's just like, okay, well, he doesn't like, he kills some of the upper generals, but most of the guys, he just lets them go back and be his leaders. He's like, don't be with Darius' team, you know, swear loyalty to me and we're good. And they do. Okay?
So they don't join his army, they just let the leaders.
He doesn't need them to join his army. He's actually winning battles so well and he's getting fresh recruits still marching over from Macedon that he pretty much has his original army. It doesn't get bigger and bigger and bigger. It stays at 35,000 the entire time. He doesn't make some huge army. He just keeps it at the same time. And we're actually going to go into this. Let's talk about what happens after he wins, because he wins this battle. Okay, Darius leaves, he runs away, he goes up north trying to recruit some more stuff. Oh, let's talk about so when Darius leaves, now Parmenion is getting hit again in this same battle of Gaugamela. 2 years later, same thing. Parmenion is losing again, and Alexander is faced with the exact same decision. Do I chase after Darius, or do I go back and do I help Parmenion? Okay, this is 2 years later, same decision. I want you to think this time, what do you think Alexander did? Okay, think about it. And then we'll take a raise of hands. Did he chase after him, or did he steer? Okay?
So this battle we were talking about is the Guadalajara.
This is Gaugamela. Okay, everybody who thinks that he chased after Darius III, raise your hand. All right, good, good. Very nice. All right, everybody who thinks that he went back and helped Parmenion, raise your hand. Okay, much less this time. It's interesting. He went back and helped Parmenion. Again, he went back to help Parmenion. Okay? He knew that he would face Darius another day, and this shows his loyalty, his care for his troops, right? He doesn't need to get Darius. He wants to stay and make sure he wins the battle that day. Okay?
Saying that they're more worthy of his time.
Right, exactly. Those people that have been with him forever are more worthy of their time. I like that. That's very good. He goes up. He doesn't actually get to kill Darius, which I think always makes him sad. He wanted to finally get that guy. Darius was murdered by some governor for running away all the time. He goes and he hangs out in some other palace. And once Darius is out of the way, man, Alexander just has free reign. Everybody's just like, listen, we've seen what you've done. You're taking over everything. Just take over our city. No big deal. It's, what do you need? We're in charge. You know what I mean? Like, that's really what happens.
So
And he,
Josh is like, oh, you're gonna win, where we're not gonna waste time fighting.
exactly. You're the winner. We're not even going to waste your time. And when he gets to Persepolis, the capital of Persia, he destroys that city.
Why?
because his whole campaign, like I said last time, his whole campaign is based on the fact that the Persians invaded Greece. He's saying that he is now he's like doing righteous vengeance against the Persians for them attacking Greece, and mostly burning down the temples of the Greek gods. And so he goes in and he burns down all their temples and destroys their city, kind of like vengeance type of a thing. Just destroys it, flattens it out. Okay. All right. Well, let's wrap it up there. Are there any questions? Yes, ma'am.
So he went to, there's Isis, then he went to Egypt, and then this and that.
Right. Exactly. Any other questions? Any other questions about Alexander? How he's winning, what he's doing? He is not the only one with a horse. This is just a mosaic. This kind of just shows him in charge. He actually led a troop of about 3,000 men called the Companions, right? And this would be all his cavalry. And they had two weapons. They had a short spear that they would fight with, and then they had a short sword that they'd also use. So those are the two. Yes.
What's his horse's name?
I pronounce it Bucephalus. I don't know if that's the name. You can find it here. I don't know if you guys want to look. It's on page 143 at the very bottom under that little history makers, Alexander.
Did he name a city of that?
Yeah, he does. In India, he names a city after it. What would you say this name is? Bucephalus?
Bucephalus.
Bucephalus? No? Yeah? I think it's Bucephalus. Okay. Any other questions? No one wants to know about his personal life, his character? Okay. Well, let's wrap it up. Let's talk about what happens after he attacks, because he dies at a young age. He's dead by 32. But we're going to read a little bit about this. So if you're watching this, now we're going to go on to page 144. We're going to start at the place where it says Alexander's other conquests, and we're going to go to the end of the chapter, where you are going to be answering questions 4, 5, and 6 with a paragraph each.